A nun, badly needing to use the restroom, walked into a local Hooters. The place was hopping with music and loud conversations, and every once in a while the lights would turn off for some reason. Each time the lights would go out, the place would erupt into cheers. However, when the people partying saw the nun, the room went dead silent. She walked up to the bartender and asked, "May I please use the restroom?" The bartender replied, "Okay, but I should warn you that there is a statue of a naked man in there that's wearing only a fig leaf to cover its private part." "Well, in that case, I'll just look the other way. I cannot ever get fooled by Satan," said the nun. So, the bartender showed the nun the way to the bathroom. After a few minutes, she came back out, and the whole place went crazy and started cheering for her. She went to the bartender and said, "Sir, I don't understand. Why did they applaud for me just because I went to the restroom?" "Well, now they know you're one of us. Would you like a drink?" said the bartender. "But I still don't understand," said the puzzled nun. "You see," laughed the bartender, "every time someone lifts the fig leaf on that statue, the lights go out. Now how about that drink?" A bustling city street, with taxis weaving through traffic. The cab driver, Steve, pulls over to pick up a passenger who turns out to be a nun. Inside the cab, the nun, Sister Mary, notices Steve's frequent glances in the rearview mirror. Sister Mary, curious, and asks, "Is there something on my face, young man?" Steve nervously says, "Oh, no, sister. Sorry if I seemed rude. It's just that you're very beautiful." Sister Mary, chuckling, and asks, "Thank you, my son. You're too kind. But what's on your mind?" Steve sheepishly says, "Well, sister, I have a question, but I'm afraid it might be inappropriate." Sister Mary kindly says, "You can ask me anything, my child. I won't be offended." Steve, taking a deep breath, and says, "I've always had this fantasy of being kissed by a nun." A surprised but amused expression on Sister Mary's face. Sister Mary with a twinkle in her eye and says, "Well, well, well. Let's see what we can do about that. But first, you must meet two conditions." Steve eagerly says, "Anything, sister. Just name it." Sister Mary says, "You must be single and Catholic." Steve excitedly says, "Yes, sister. I'm both." Sister Mary says, "Very well. Pull into the next alley." The cab parked in a dimly lit alley. Sister Mary leans in and gives Steve a kiss that surprises even him. Steve's face, which transitions from shock to elation, then quickly to tears. Sister Mary, concerned, and asks, "My dear child, why are you crying?" Steve, sobbing, and says, "Forgive me, sister, for I have sinned. I lied to you. I'm married and I'm Jewish." Sister Mary, surprised, then amused, and says, "Ah, my dear Steve, no need to worry. My name is Jack, and I'm going to a Halloween party." The pearly gates with St. Peter welcoming three French nuns. St. Peter says, "Ladies, you've lived such wonderful lives that I'm granting you 6 months to go back to Earth and be anyone and do anything you want." The first nun says, "I wanted to be Taylor Swift," and poof, she's gone. The second says, "I wanted to be Madonna," and poof, she's gone. The third says, "I wanted to be Alberto Pipolini." St. Peter looks perplexed. "Who?" he says. "Alberto Pipolini," replies the nun. St. Peter shakes his head and says, "I'm sorry, but that name just doesn't ring a bell." The nun then takes a newspaper out of her habit and hands it to St. Peter. He reads the paper and starts laughing. He hands it back to her and says, "No, sister, this says Alberta pipeline laid by 800 men in 6 months. A priest and a nun get caught in a blizzard and take shelter in a small cabin. The priest offers the nun the bed and takes a sleeping bag for himself. In the middle of the night, the nun complains, "Father, I'm still cold." The priest gets up, gives her another blanket, and asks, "Is that better, sister?" "Oh, yes, Father. Thank you," she replies. The priest settles back into his sleeping bag, but soon the nun calls out again, "Father, I'm still cold." After a moment of thought, the priest says, "Sister, we're in the middle of nowhere, and it's a blizzard outside. No one but you, me, and the Lord will ever know what happens here tonight. How about, just for tonight, we act as though we are married?" The nun thinks about it and finally agrees. "Okay, Father, just for tonight, we will act as though we are married." The priest then replies, "Good. Get up and get your own damn blanket," and rolls over to fall asleep. A priest offered a nun a lift. As she got in, she crossed her legs, revealing a bit of her leg. Distracted, the priest almost swerved off the road. Regaining control, he couldn't resist and let his hand slide up her leg. "Father, remember Psalm 129?" the nun said calmly. Embarrassed, the priest pulled his hand away but couldn't help himself and did it again while changing gears. Again, the nun reminded him, "Father, remember Psalm 129?" Apologizing, the priest replied, "Sorry, sister, but the flesh is weak." They arrived at the convent, and the nun sighed deeply before heading inside. Curious and anxious, the priest hurried back to the church to look up Psalm 129. It read, "Go forth and seek, further up you will find glory.